Μεταδώστε την είδηση, όχι τον ιό. Spread the news, not the virus. Το Solidarity Now, η ύπατη αρμοστία του ΟΗΕ για τους πρόσφυγες και το pod.gr ενώνουν τις δυνάμεις τους σε podcast για να σε βοηθήσουν. Άκου τις πρόσφατες ανακοινώσεις για τη σταδιακή άρση των περιοριστικών μέτρων στα αγγλικά.
Spread the news, not the virus. Solidarity Now, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and pod.gr join their forces to support you through a series of podcasts. Listen to the latest updates on the gradual ease of the lockdown measures in English.
Spread the news, not the virus. In the fight to reduce the transmission of the new coronavirus, we are all one team. We stay informed, we take precautions, we stay safe, and we protect those around us. Gradual ease of lockdown measures. On Tuesday, April 28th, the Greek government announced measures to gradually ease the movement restrictions that have been imposed to prevent the spread of new infections by the coronavirus. This does not mean that life will return to normal, and many restrictions will remain in place as long as the coronavirus remains a threat to public health. The ease of restrictions is gradual and will affect several sectors. Freedom of movement. As of May 4th, movement certificates or SMSs are no longer required, and so you will be able to move freely. However, please note that the use of a mask is mandatory for people in public transportation, bus, metro, train, taxis, hospitals, clinics, diagnostic centers, doctors' offices, and elevators. A fine of €150 may be imposed for violation of not wearing a mask, while in the hospitals, the fine is increased to €300. Social distancing of 2 meters will also need to be followed in all public locations. Taxis will continue to carry a maximum of 1 passenger, with the exception of a parent with underage children or someone accompanying a person for medical reasons. For public transport, there will be an increase in transit during rush hours and a reduction in transit from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from 6 p.m. to midnight. However, it is highly recommended to avoid the use of public transportation unless necessary and only for work reasons during peak hours, 7 to 10 a.m. and 2 to 5 p.m. As of May 4th, a driver and 2 passengers are allowed in private vehicles. However, traffic movement to other prefectures is scheduled to be allowed as of May 18th. Opening of public spaces and services. As of May 4th, exercise outdoors and swimming in the sea is allowed, but organized beaches will remain closed. Outdoor sport facilities, such as sports fields, may welcome athletes always complying with the health rules on personal hygiene. Indoor gyms and fitness centers will remain closed. Playgrounds will also remain closed. Public hospitals will reopen for surgeries and external patients. The following shops will open: small shops, hair salons, bookstores, sports stores, garden shops, optic shops. Employees in public transport, supermarkets, and beauty salons will be obliged to use a mask and disposable gloves. The use of elevators is not recommended and prohibited if escalators are available. People should use escalators at the metro stations, and only people with mobility issues or for transportation of goods can use the elevators. If the use of an elevator is necessary, it should be limited to 40% of its capacity. Courts in the asylum service will remain closed until May 15th. On May 18th, zoo, botanical gardens, and archaeological sites are scheduled to open. On June 1st, shopping malls and department stores are scheduled to open, as well as cafes, bars, and restaurants, but only allowing customers in the outdoor spaces. Religious worship. As of May 4th, and according to a joint decision of the Ministers of Health and of Education and Religious Affairs, places of worship are open only for individual prayer and provided that the following measures are in place. Only one person will be allowed for every 10 square meters, and they have to keep a distance of at least 1.5 meters between them. The use of a hand antiseptic when entering the area is mandatory, and it is advisable that everyone wears a mask when in the worship area. Natural ventilation of all areas of worship is mandatory. Additionally, the General Secretariat for Religion has issued the following instructions to Greece's Muslim residents for the duration of Ramadan. Due to the restrictions on gatherings, prayers during Ramadan can be performed at home. Iftar is allowed to take place only in houses without any third parties, such as relatives, friends, or other visitors. No free spaces in Athens or other municipalities in the country will be granted for prayers for Eid al-Fitr. On May 17th, and according to the operational plan of the gradual lifting of measures announced by the government, places of worship are scheduled to open to the public and people will be allowed to attend religious services under strict rules on social distance and mask. Religious ceremonies, including gatherings and group prayers during Ramadan, are scheduled to be allowed gradually after May 17th, provided that the necessary measures are in place, which will be announced by the government in an updated decision. Schools. The reopening of schools will be gradual and nurseries will remain closed. Senior high schools, only for 12th graders, are scheduled to open on May 11th in 2 rotations, and on May 18th, the first and second classes of high schools and the first, second, and third classes of middle schools are scheduled to open. Classes are planned to be held on rotation to maintain the 2-meter distance requirement between children. After June. The government is planning to further ease the restrictions after June 1st and is scheduling the reopening of preschool and primary schools, recreational parks, theme parks, outdoor playgrounds, indoor facilities, beaches, flights and sea travel, and more. However, the reopening of additional spaces and services will depend on the situation related to the coronavirus pandemic to minimize new infections and protect the population. In case of local corona outbreaks, additional restrictions or lockdown measures may be introduced. Stay tuned for further updates on government announcements on COVID-19. We will not let fear win. Stay safe.
Ήταν το Frequently Asked Questions for Migrants, ένα podcast του Solidarity Now σε συνεργασία με την ύπατη αρμοστία του ΟΗΕ και το pod.gr που δίνει χρήσιμες πληροφορίες σε πρόσφυγες και μετανάστες που ζουν στη χώρα μας. Βρείτε το podcast στην ιστοσελίδα του Solidarity Now, στο pod.gr, στην ιστοσελίδα της ύπατης αρμοστίας help.unhcr.org, Spotify, Apple Podcasts ή όπου ακούς podcast από το κινητό σου.
It was the Frequently Asked Questions for Migrants, a podcast by Solidarity Now in collaboration with the UNHCR and pod.gr that gives useful information to refugees and migrants living in Greece. Find the podcast on the Solidarity Now website on pod.gr, on the UNHCR website at help.unhcr.org, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts from your mobile phone.